Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto those who follow the right guidance. I hope that all of you either are following the right guidance or will be following the right guidance. I want good for all of human beings, really, honestly. I became a Muslim, and so I'm very happy with the fact that Allah has guided me to Islam. Almighty God has guided me to Islam. So at least if you don't accept Islam, I hope that by the time we finish, you at least respect Islam. And shouldn't we human beings have common respect for one another? Like I told you in earlier episodes, earlier videos, even my mother didn't raise me where I couldn't even use profanity. So even now, as an adult, I don't use profanity. So you're not going to hear any profanity on this video, okay? So we should have mutual respect for one another. We as human beings, we should have mutual respect, even if you don't become a Muslim. And the door is open to become a Muslim, because Muslim means those who submit to the will of the Creator. So if you find that Islam is the best way to submit to the will of the Creator, which I have found that to be the case, then you too should also become a Muslim. You too should also become one of the submitters to the will of the Creator. That's all that it means. We're not calling ourselves after Mohammedans, just like people say Christ, and they call themselves Christians, and Jews call themselves Jews after Judah. So these names, when we say Muslim, we mean one who submits to the will of the Creator. That's simple. We're not Mohammedans. We don't worship Muhammad. We worship the Creator of the heavens and earth that created everything, human beings and animals, everything, and insects and everything. So we're talking about being submitters to Almighty God. That's what this is about. And so all of the prophets that came to mankind, these are our prophets. These are your prophets, and these are our prophets. So don't miss out on the final prophet that came from Almighty God to guide us to paradise so that we won't go astray. When other books have been lost and tampered, there's one book that was protected by Almighty God so that you can know the truth. So that even in the Quran, if you look at it, it talks about all the major prophets before. If it was just one book to one people, it would only be talking about Muhammad, right? And it would only be talking about what happens during the life of Muhammad, right? But no, it's talking about all of the prophets, Moses and Abraham and Jesus and all of these prophets, because it's the final book. Like if you took a final exam in college, everything will be on the final exam. But when you take just one course, then it's dealing with that particular course, right? But once you finish, get to the end, you get a final exam. And on the final exam is a little from every subject that you had to deal with, right? Well, that's the Quran, and that's proof even in and of itself that the Quran is the final revelation to mankind, you see? And it has been protected by the Creator. Even if you check in the Encyclopedia Britannica, it says it's the only book in existence that has not undergone change since the time it's been written, right? So it's amazing. You see, even with every year, the Bible is being rewritten every year, isn't it? To be more in accordance with modern day thinking, right? But if our thinking is wrong in this modern day, then we will be changing that which was good into something that is bad if our thinking is bad. So we're supposed to obey the Creator, not make the Creator obey us, right? So whatever was revealed, we must obey it and follow it, not change it. And not only that, even when you look to the language that Jesus spoke, what did he speak? He spoke the language Aramaic, right? So where is the original revelation that Jesus wrote and spoke and his disciples wrote down in the Aramaic language? It's no longer in existence. So what are we going to do now? If we're all followers of Jesus and there's no revelation in the original language that he spoke, then how are we going to be guided correctly? So then after that, they say, well, the original is lost or destroyed or whatever, but it was written down again in the Greek language, right? And then from the Greek language into the Latin language and into the English language and into many languages like that, right? But still, we don't have the original. No Christian can claim that the complete gospel is in existence, the original. But they have what they claim to be, is claimed by the scholars of Christianity, to be a copy of the original. That's a supposition. That's what they say. That's what they think without proof. And we hope so, because everyone needs guidance. And in fact, I can say it must be true because there are many similarities between what's in the Bible and what's in the Quran. So that's proof in of itself that there are still some things that go back to the original Bible that is in, the Bibles today, right? So now we can only refer back to the Greek language, right? And even that was said to be written in the 3rd or 4th centuries. So it wasn't written by Jesus, it wasn't written by his disciples, but it was written by Greek-speaking people in the 3rd or 4th century. So, however, they understood, if anyone is familiar, let's be open-minded here, if any one of you are translators, you know the difficulty of translating from one language to another. Sometimes you lose the meaning, sometimes you change the meaning by trying to translate from one language to another. That's why even in Arabic, before I learned how to speak and read Arabic, when reading the English, as I started to learn Arabic, I started trying to refer to the Arabic to see if what was in the English was correct. But if the Arabic wasn't there, what would I do? I would have no choice but to accept and believe that which was written in English, even if it was wrong. Right? This is the problem with translations. So the Quran is a blessing from the Creator, a blessing to mankind. So it's not just something that Muslims say, oh, we got this. No, this is for mankind. The Quran says that this is a book to mankind. Yeah, ayyuhan nas. Right? It speaks to mankind, not just to the Arabs. It doesn't say, yeah, are you Arab? It doesn't say, oh, you Arabs. It says, oh, mankind. So that shows you in and of itself it's a book, a universal book to all of mankind, to guide us to the straight path, to guide us to paradise. Right? So let's continue now looking at what this book, which the Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, brought to mankind. Let's take a look so that we can have a greater understanding of the character that people attack and speak so badly about. Let's take a look. Okay? Last we're dealing with the issue of women. A lot of times people spend a lot of time about the women, trying to prove that Islam oppresses the women, to prove that Muhammad was an oppressor of women. So let's continue with the part about education. Some people say, the Muslims, they don't let the women learn. They don't let them become educated. Well, that's obviously a lie. I don't have to spend too much time to make that clear. I can make that very clear very easily just by the fact that the Prophet Muhammad, he had many wives, okay? And one of his wives was Aisha. And she was one of the biggest scholars of Islam after the passing away of the Prophet Muhammad. She memorized most of the authentic sayings and doings of the Prophet Muhammad, and she taught his followers. They would come to her to get classes to be taught about what the Prophet said, did, and approved of. So not only was she educated, but she became one of the biggest educators of the followers of the Prophet Muhammad after his passing away. So women not being educated, no, the Prophet not only encouraged it, but he educated the women himself. You see? So that is definitely not true. And if there are Muslims in this day and time that don't allow the women to become educated, they're going against the very thing that Prophet Muhammad encouraged. And he said, if you have daughters and you teach them and educate them correctly, that I will guarantee you paradise. He spoke about if you had 3 daughters and you raised them correctly and educated them. If you have 2 and you raise them correctly and educate them. If you have 1. So he encouraged the believers to educate their daughters, to educate their women. And he did it. You see? So it's easy to prove that to not be true. Okay? Let's continue now with another aspect. Here we dealt with the aspect before about witnesses, okay? Where some people try to attack Islam. I saw a website before. A priest became Muslim. And so many non-Muslims were so angry they were attacking him. They were attacking him everywhere on the internet. And one person even started a website for strict purpose of attacking Muslims, attacking the Prophet, attacking the Creator, attacking everything, the Quran and everything, you see. And he was challenging, this priest, I challenge you to come debate with me, and he said, you see, he didn't respond to me. That's proof that, Islam is not the truth. That's proof that Islam is not the truth because someone doesn't want to debate with you. And even when I went onto the website, the way that these people debate is using profanity, using offensive words. And so if this Muslim cannot control himself in having a discussion with a person that is attacking him and using profanity and raising his voice, then better that he doesn't talk with him and leave it to people, who have no problem with controlling themselves and talking with such people. So I went on that website, and I was, alhamdulillah, the Creator gave me the ability to talk to this person, even though he was using profanity. I didn't use profanity back, and even though he was speaking badly and attacking, the Quran and so forth, I didn't, respond in a light manner, you see. So, this is what our Prophet tells us, that, if a person, speaks to you badly, right, the Quran says that you should speak to them good in response, right? This is what the Quran says, and it's in, the surah called Fusilat, right? And this is the 31st chapter and 34th verse for those who want to check it. So it talks about that even when a person speaks to you badly, that you should speak to them good, you see. So this is Islam, you see. And so this is what people need to know. So when we go on this website, they were attacking the Muslims, saying, see, and this person has a lot of knowledge about Islam. That's why it's very difficult for someone who doesn't study their religion to actually talk with him. But for those who study their religion, it's very easy to talk with this person. Remember, this person, he used to be what we call a Shia Muslim, you see. So remember, there are different types of Muslims, but the Muslims that follow the example of the Prophet, that's what we call Sunni, because they follow the example of the Prophet. That's what Sunni means, Sunnah. They follow the example of the Prophet, right? And so when you hear people saying Salaf as well, because some people say, oh, those Salafis, they're the worst. What does it actually mean? Salafi just means to follow the righteous, the Salaf as to follow the righteous people before you, the righteous Muslims before you. So that in and of itself is not a bad thing, to follow the righteous. You know what righteous means. So it's a good thing, but people are trying to make a good thing look bad, to look dirty. So this person was a Shia, and the Shia, these are a group that, they believe that, some of them say that Ali, is God. Some of them say that, there's new revelation that came after it. So they have many things, and they attack the companions of the Prophet. So they can't even legitimately be considered Muslims in the terms of what a Muslim means. Some of them come close to maybe being considered being within the folds of Islam, but some go very far outside. They, on certain day of the year, they hit themselves and torture themselves, and blood comes out of them. They do all these types of crazy things, So these cannot be considered Muslim according to what Muslim means. Okay, so he left from that, and he's using his experience from that to attack Islam. That's why it's so easy to defend Islam if you know Islam, because that which he was on is not Islam. Okay? So he was talking about in the Quran how it says that, when you need witnesses, right, to a contract, that you get 2 men, right? And if you cannot get 2 men, then a man and 2 women. And he says, aha, you see that? There's prejudice. You see, they're saying that the women are not as intelligent as the man, so you need 2 women to replace 1 man. Crazy, crazy, crazy. For someone who doesn't know Islam, they might fall for that. But for someone who studies their religion, they understand that in Islam, there's no mixing between the sexes. There's no mixing of the men and the women, right? Even in the prayer, the men are in one area and the women are in another. In schools, the men are in one area and the women are in another, right? And so the men and women are separated, and a man should not be alone together with a woman, or the third one is the devil. This is what the Prophet tells us, right? So there's a separation. The women spend time with the women, and they must dress modestly around men. But when they're around women, they can relax their dress a little bit, but they cannot show, their private parts. Okay? So this is Islam, and when you understand that, then you understand that as the Quran continues to explain, so that the one woman can remind the other. Okay? So that's what the other one is there for. So they remind one another if they forget. Right? When the case of two men, if you actually had two men, why do you have two men? So one man can remind the other. So the same situation, this is equal justice, but because there's a separation between men and women, it's not for that woman to say, oh, do you remember such and such, and then talking together and trying to remind each other what? No. The one woman can remind the other. And why did two men in the beginning? So the one man can remind the other. So see, this is equal justice in this respect. If anyone understands this land, you see? And even not only that, there is other aspects as well. You know, if you as a man, okay, were very sick, and you know, every so often you had to have blood transfusions, and you were in pain 24 hours a day, and someone left you home to watch the children, you'll find yourself to be in a similar situation, emotional situations there, like the woman. The woman, because she's always with the children, right, she also is naturally forgetful. Okay, but that's not her fault. That's because of her situation. It said even when you lose blood, that affects your memory. The women lose blood every month through the menses. And so that affects the memory. Also, having children in pain, monthly pains, affects the memory. It affects your emotional state. So even by nature, the woman is forgetful. So see, a woman, to remind the woman, is even a more necessity because of her situation than the man. But yet at first there's two men, one man to remind the other. In the case of a woman, it's even more important because of her situation that you have a woman to remind the other. All right? If you had a man that's very forgetful, even in when we have what's called hadith methodology, right? If you have a man that's very forgetful, you can't accept him as a narrator of hadith, of tradition, of the prophet. So even a man, if he's very forgetful, then he must be considered not worthy of being one, you know, to give accounts and narrations. And if he's forgetful, you know, or even a liar. So there's many conditions that may invalidate a man's witness. Okay? So remember that. So there's no injustice in that respect if someone really understands Islam as it truly is. Okay, let's move on now. They say women, you don't allow them to work. I think we touched on this before. The first wife of the Prophet, her name was Khadijah, and she was a businesswoman, and she worked. Only thing is just that if a woman works, she has to not be in violation of, you know, the Islamic standards, meaning working with men. And, you know, if you even check, for those who live in America and other places, you should be the very first one to bear witness that a lot of adultery, a lot of fornication comes from men and women working together. Every day you go to work and you see this beautiful woman, and you're talking with her and you get along, right? And then you go home to problems, right? You're arguing with your husband or you're arguing with your wife, but every time you go to work and you're talking to Sally, you get along very well. No arguing. You get along, you laugh and joke with one another, and then eventually you start thinking, maybe Sally is better than my wife. And so one thing leads to the next. So a lot of adultery and a lot of fornication comes from interaction and intermingling of the men and women. And this is the reality. So Islam prevents these type of things. All right? So the men are in separate situations. So if a woman is to be in a workplace, she's to be in a workplace with other women. She's to be modest in her dress. And she has to still maintain her responsibilities over the house. If she has children, she has to be sure that she's taking care of her responsibilities, not leaving the children to raise themselves, not leaving the children to be raised by the streets, not leaving the children to be raised by gangsters or drug dealers, not leaving the children to be raised by the television, so that when they get older, you don't even recognize your children because they've been raised by television. or they've been raised by the gangsters in the street, or they've been raised by the street, or they've raised themselves and did whatever they wanted to do, right? So you don't know your children when they get older. And this is also what leads to children killing their parents. There's no respect. They weren't raised by their parents. They weren't raised with love and respect of their parents in a complete parent household where the father is there and the mother is there and the children are there and they help one another and everyone fulfills their roles in the family. So Islam sets that balance where a woman can live as a queen. She doesn't have to work. She can focus on the biggest and the greatest position on earth to raise human beings, to raise respectable human beings. Whenever there's a great person in society, didn't he have a mother? Every great human being that walks on the face of the earth had a mother. And it's the mother who had the job to raise that great human being, that had the job to nurture and to educate that great human being. So if she did her job, she did a great job. But if she left that child to be raised by the television, to be raised by the streets, then she will not know that child when it gets older. And she may have raised her very own enemy. That man may have been the cause of his own enemy being produced. So the balance in family life is what Islam sets. Okay? Now, let's move on. Also, we have many things that happen when you don't have that balanced family life. You know, when a society is left to run rampant, where there's fornication and adultery, that leads to things like AIDS. And they even say in statistics that the majority of the criminals that are in jails today come from one-parent households or broken households. So you see, even that in of itself shows that the structure that Islam sets is the best structure because it comes from the Creator, you see. So broken households is a big, big problem in the West, a big, big problem in America, you see. So now women don't want to marry. It's a big problem. Now women say they don't need a man, a big problem. And when you leave a woman that's divorced or that was never married because she, doesn't look attractive or she can't have children or for whatever reason, or she's a widow, then you leave that woman to start thinking about getting the love attention from another woman. And these are doorways that are open, or even when a girl or a boy reaches puberty and you say, no, you can't get married until you finish college. No, you can't get married until you finish high school. But the Creator established it where a girl can be pregnant after puberty. So it's lawful in the eyesight of the Creator for a woman to get married after she passes puberty. And when we refuse to accept that reality, we find girls that are pregnant, 15-year-old girls that are pregnant, 14-year-old girls that are pregnant and not married, because we refuse to accept the reality that the Creator has decreed that they should be able to be married at that age. And when we refuse to accept the nature that the Creator has set, the balance that He has set, then even priests who say they'll never get married start thinking about doing things with boys or doing things with nuns, and it happens. So we must accept the true nature and accept the way that the Creator has established our lives, and then that's the only way we will be successful. And this is what Islam enjoins. And so this is what Islam is about, the fitr, the nature, the natural nature the Creator has set. And another important thing I need to make before closing, because we're going to close this part, and then we're going to go to another part to continue the aspects about Islam and what they attack the Prophet about. The last thing I'll say is that the Quran says, "Laysa dhakaru kal untha." It's a very important point. It says, and the men are not like the women. You see, a lot of problems that come from the problems we have in society is because the women think the men think the way they do. And some men think the women think that the way they do. And so some of the men say, yeah, we shouldn't have more than one wife, because that's not fair to the woman. And women say, why do the men want more than one woman? Why do men want more than one wife? You see, because the women by nature, are monogamous. And so they have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 boyfriends, then their whole nature has been destroyed or distorted. But in the beginning, they are shy. In the beginning, they're monogamous. And this is by nature. And the boys, by nature, the men, by nature, are polygamous. You know, they'll be, wanting more than one girlfriend. And even if they're married, someone else catches their eye. That's why women say, oh, men are animals, men are dogs. But they don't understand that it's a different nature. Nature is that men are not like women. They are different natures, and we have to learn to understand and respect one another, not change one another. A woman should not try to be like a man, and a man should not try to be like a woman. They complement one another, and they are different in nature. And they support one another. They are partners in life. And that's why the man goes out and works so the woman can do her job fully and successfully. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll continue this next time in regards to the controversy surrounding our prophet.